Hello! Today's quiz is all about blood. Let's hope it's not all in vain. Question 1. Whose blood cried out to God from the ground after being shed? Was that Abel, Adam, Seth, or Cain? And that was Abel in Genesis chapter 4. Abel's blood symbolically cried out for justice, marking the first recorded murder in the Bible. This moment emphasizes the sanctity of life. Question 2. What was painted on the doorposts of the Israelites to protect them during the final plague in Egypt? Was it cow's blood, pigeon's blood, lamb's blood, or ox's blood? And that was lamb's blood, found in Exodus chapter 7. The Passover lamb's blood spared the firstborn of Israel, foreshadowing Jesus as the ultimate Passover lamb. Question 3. Who was described as washing their robes and making them white in the blood of the Lamb? Was that the 12 apostles, the great multitude in heaven, the martyrs of Jerusalem, or the elders of Israel? And that was the great multitude in heaven in Revelation chapter 7. This imagery emphasizes the purifying power of Jesus' sacrifice and the redemption of the faithful. Question 4. In what event did water and blood flow from Jesus' side? Was it his crucifixion, his baptism, the Last Supper, or the Transfiguration? And of course, that was his crucifixion in John chapter 19. Now this detail, observed at the crucifixion, symbolizes the outpouring of life and cleansing power through Jesus' death. Question 5. What was the first plague in Egypt that involved blood? Was it blood on the Egyptian cattle, a rain of blood, the Nile turning to blood, or boils oozing blood? And the first was the Nile turning to blood in Exodus chapter 7. God turned the Nile into blood, striking at Egypt's lifeline, and demonstrating his power over their gods. Question 6. What did David refuse to drink, calling it the blood of men who risked their lives? Was it wine from Jerusalem, water from Bethlehem, honey from the wilderness, or milk from the fields? And he refused the water from Bethlehem in 2 Samuel chapter 23. He refused to drink the water brought at great risk, valuing his men's lives over his personal thirst. Question 7. Which New Testament book declares that without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness? Is that Galatians, Hebrews, Romans, or James? And that's in Hebrews chapter 9. And this verse explains the necessity of bloodshed for atonement, fulfilled ultimately in Christ's sacrifice. Question 8. What did the woman with the issue of blood do to be healed by Jesus? Did she push through the crowd, anoint his feet, touch his garment, or cry out his name? And yes, she touched his garment in Luke chapter 8. Her faith in touching Jesus led to her healing, showing his power to restore even unclean individuals. Question 9. Which New Testament writer stressed that believers are redeemed by the precious blood of Christ? Was that James, John, Peter, or Paul? And that was Peter in 1 Peter chapter 1. He describes Christ's blood as a ransom for believers, emphasizing its value and redemptive power. Question 10. Who were the Israelites commanded to sprinkle blood on during the first covenant ceremony? Was that the high priest alone, the altar and the people, the Ark of the Covenant, or the doorposts of their homes? And they needed to sprinkle the altar and the people in Exodus chapter 24. Now this act symbolized Israel's covenant with God, emphasizing the role of blood in purification and agreement. Question 11. What was the penalty for shedding innocent blood under Mosaic law? Was it to offer a goat, exile, 7 years of servitude, or death? Now, in Numbers 35, the shedding of innocent blood defiled the land, and the penalty was death. Question 12. Which Old Testament figure said, "Do not shed blood, throw him into the cistern instead"? Was that Reuben, Judah, Simeon, or Joseph? Well, it wasn't Joseph, because he was the victim in Genesis chapter 37, as Reuben tried to prevent his brothers from killing him. Question 13. Whose hands were stained with the blood of God's prophets, prompting Jehu's mission? Was that Elisha and Elijah, David and Solomon, Rehoboam and Jeroboam, or Jezebel and Ahab? And that was Jezebel and Ahab, from 2 Kings chapter 9. They had shed the innocent blood of God's servants, particularly persecuting the prophets, leading to their house's downfall. Question 14. According to the law, who had the responsibility to avenge blood guilt? Was it the high priest, the nearest relative of the victim, the elders of the city, or the judges of Israel? And the responsibility lay with the nearest relative, according to Numbers chapter 35. And the avenger of the blood, typically a family member, ensured justice for murder, reflecting God's concern for justice and order. Question 15. What did Judas Iscariot return to the priests, declaring he had betrayed innocent blood? Was it the 30 pieces of silver, a jar of oil, his cloak, or a scroll of accusations? And he returned the 30 pieces of silver, in Matthew chapter 27. In doing so, he was confessing his guilt in the shedding of Jesus' blood. Question 16. What kind of offering required the blood of animals without defect? Was that a sin offering, a burnt offering, a grain offering, or a wave offering? And that was a sin offering. You'll find it in Leviticus chapter 4. Now, the sin offering required an animal without defect, symbolizing purity and God's demand for perfection in atonement. Question 17. Which prophet spoke of the blood guilt and judgment in the city of Nineveh? Was that Jonah, Nahum, Hosea, or Micah? And that was Nahum. He described Nineveh as a city of blood, emphasizing its violence and impending judgment from God. Question 18. In Revelation, whose blood is described as crying out to God for justice? Was that the blood of the prophets, the blood of the wicked, the blood of the kings, or the blood of the martyrs? And crying out was the blood of the martyrs in Revelation chapter 6, symbolizing their sacrifice and faithfulness. Question 19. What did Pilate do while declaring himself innocent of Jesus' blood? Did he offer incense, tear his robe, wash his hands, or declare a fast? And he washed his hands of the whole affair in Matthew chapter 27, an attempt to distance himself from guilt, though he still authorized the crucifixion. And question 20. What apocalyptic event caused water to turn to blood in the book of Revelation? Was it the third seal, the fourth bowl, the first horseman, or the second trumpet? And that was the second trumpet in Revelation chapter 8. This brought judgment, with a blazing mountain cast into the sea, turning water to blood. So, how's the blood pressure after that? All good, I hope. Until next time, goodbye, and God bless.